Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. So this is a very pivotal moment in our nation's history. We could very well be living through the second golden age for the Second Amendment. We have a Republican-controlled White House, we have a Republican-controlled Senate, and we could very well have a Republican-controlled House. And with those three key things, we could see national reciprocity, or even better, maybe the way that it should be, national constitutional carry. We could see things get taken off of the NFA. Even though the NFA should be overturned completely, we still may see at least part of that be overturned, which would be phenomenal. We could see more gun rights than we have in decades. All are great. That's all great news. And if everything works out the way that it should, that's the way we should see things roll out in the future. However, when you're talking about draining the swamp, the one problem with the swamp is they're going to hang on to power as much as humanly possible. And that's exactly what they're trying to do in the Senate right now. They're trying to put somebody from the swamp in charge of the swamp. Now, with that being said, you may have already heard that the Senate has put forward 3 candidates to lead the majority in the Senate. These are 3 candidates that I would have absolutely not chosen to advance our Second Amendment rights. They are Thune, Cornyn, and Scott, none of which to me are perfect. Some are absolutely worse than others. Scott being for red flags, and Cornyn being one of the masterminds behind the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Those two absolutely are out, but Thune has his issues as well. Now, thanks to Benny Johnson, we actually know how the votes are going behind the scenes right now, so we can actually see who is in the lead. And so I want to talk about that today and talk about each one of these people and what they would mean to our Second Amendment moving forward, because this could absolutely put a stop to all of the good that we could potentially see coming.
Joining us now is Texas Senator John Cornyn, one of the authors of the bipartisan bill.
This video is proud to be sponsored by American Hartford Gold. Listen, if there is one thing that those of us in the firearms community understand, it's that you cannot rely on the government for your protection. Not with your life, and especially not with your wealth. Look, throughout our lifetime, the dominance of the US dollar was unquestioned, but that may be changing. As we face unprecedented inflation, the world's biggest economies are ditching the dollar for the yen. Banks are failing left and right, and the government is discussing a total control of all of your money with the new digital dollar. Don't let your life savings become a casualty of failing corporations or currency wars. Now is the time to call the only precious metal dealer that I trust, American Hartford Gold. They'll show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your wealth portfolio with physical gold and silver. With the finest products, amazing customer service, and a buyback commitment, American Hartford Gold has a 5-star rating from thousands of reviews and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. American Hartford Gold supports content like this that is committed to bringing you the truth. Tell them I sent you, and they'll give you up to $5,000 of free silver on your first order. So call them now. Click the link in the description or call 866-856-2507. That's 866-856-2507, or text COPPER to 65532. Okay, so let's go and talk about what's going on here. Now, first you have to understand how extremely important this is to our Second Amendment rights. We need to have somebody who is an ally as the Senate Majority Leader, not somebody who is going to work against us. If we end up with somebody like Cornyn, there's a chance that the bills that we see introduced that we want to see passed may not even make it to the floor for a vote. Cornyn's the guy who was one of the authors of the so-called Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which was the biggest piece of gun control legislation that we've seen come out of Congress in the last 30 years, and that's already had a huge effect. Not only have we seen new ATF rules come out of that, but we've also seen red flag laws in other states, because that so-called Safer Communities Act incentivized states to start up their own red flag programs. So basically it said, hey, we'll give you a certain amount of money if you start one of these programs up. And so that has already led to a lot of problems and gun control across the board. So for me, Cornyn is absolutely out. Now, I don't know if Cornyn was naive or maybe he secretly knew what he was doing behind the scenes, but he actually said this.
Joining us now is Texas Senator John Cornyn, one of the authors of the bipartisan bill. Senator, good to finally have you on this.
Thank you.
There is a split in the Republican Party. 14 Republican senators voted to advance the bill. 34 voted against it. In the House, you've got Steve Scalise whipping votes against this. Yet at the same time, Mitch McConnell says this is a good bill. Listen to how he put it.
This time is different. This time, the Democrats came our way and agreed to advance some common sense solutions without rolling back rights for law-abiding citizens. The result is a product I'm proud to support.
Common sense solutions without rolling back rights for law-abiding citizens, a product I'm proud to support. That from Mitch McConnell. What do you say, Senator?
Well, I think he's right.
So you can see right there, he didn't think it was going to have any effect on, law-abiding people's Second Amendment rights at all. But it's absolutely had an effect. It's had a huge effect, and we've been fighting against it ever since. So obviously, again, Cornyn is out. Then you have Rick Scott. Now, Rick Scott is the one that brought red flags to Florida. I mean, to me, that's just a disqualifier right there. If you supported red flags, if you have been responsible for red flags, then you know what? That's just the end of it. I can't even consider you any further, because that is basically taking somebody's Second Amendment rights away from them after the fact. And they don't even know what's going on. Somebody goes and fills out an affidavit. That affidavit goes before a judge. And then just based on that affidavit alone, somebody could lose their Second Amendment rights for 5 years, 10 years, who knows how long they could lose their Second Amendment rights. And they didn't know anything about it until after the fact. So there is no due process there. Even though it goes before a judge, there's no due process if the person has to fight back after they've been found, guilty of whatever, complaint has been made against them. So yeah, I can't support anybody who has passed red flags or supported red flags. Absolutely not. So to me, I don't even need to go any deeper into Rick Scott than that. Now, out of those three, Thune seems like the best out of the worst. His voting record isn't perfect, but it's definitely better than the other two. If we take a look at his voting record, you can see that he voted no against so-called assault weapons bans, mag bans. He voted no for the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. He voted no against a lot of the gun control that was pushed by the Democrat-controlled Senate, which is all great. But he also voted yes for national reciprocity and some other things that I thought were very good bills that never stood a chance of making it out of that Democrat-controlled Senate. But he did vote yes to forward those bills. So again, his voting record, while not perfect, is significantly better than the other two. So with that being said, let's take a look at what the results are today. Again, this is the information that's coming in from Benny Johnson, who has a source, right? And we all know sources. I can't say this is 100% accurate because I didn't get this information directly myself, but this is what the votes are looking like today. So at least as it stands right now, here's the votes. Cornyn has 18 votes, Scott has 11 votes, and Thune, I believe it's pronounced Thune, has 24 votes. Now, in my opinion, the problem here is that we don't have three good choices. Three choices that we could look at and say, okay, any one of these three would be good for the Second Amendment. Any one of these three would be a good advocate if they were Senate Majority Leader. We have to look at these three and we have to kind of rank worst to worst, right? But one being way worse than the other, one being about as bad as the first, and then the third one being okay. Nobody in there is great. Nobody in there is anybody that I would have chosen. Because again, if people voted for an agenda, right? In order to get that agenda through, you have to have Congress. You have to have somebody that's going to work on your behalf, that's somebody that's going to work on your side. If we want to see national constitutional carry, if we want to see some things removed from the NFA or the NFA overturned altogether, we need somebody who would be willing to push those things. And maybe Thune, based on his voting record, would be somebody that would be better for that. But again, it's not a list of three people who I could say for certain are going to be good advocates for our constitutional rights. There's nobody in there that, again, I could just throw my 100% support behind, and that's a problem. I know that we need to make sure that we take the House to begin with, but we need to put somebody in who is a good candidate, somebody who could actually be an effective leader for the Senate, but it's got to be somebody who believes in the Constitution and not somebody who could be duped into voting with Democrats on gun control after 30 years. We don't need somebody who's instituted red flag laws in a given state. We don't need somebody like that. We need somebody who's going to be strong, somebody who's going to be resilient, somebody who's going to stand up and say, this is what the Constitution says, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that this gets to the floor for a vote. And right now, I just don't see it. So again, I wanted to let you know about that. And I wanted to let you know at least how the vote counts and vote totals are looking right now. But we'll see what happens on Wednesday. I want to thank you all very much for watching. Sorry about the the kind of weird voice thing. It's still just kind of coming back. It's been kind of a long couple weeks. But I want to thank you all very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, consider hitting that subscribe button. You guys have a great day.